But who has made up in their mind that this is going to be the greatest year of their life? I made it up in my mind already that this is going to be the greatest year. And I had a really good year last year. And so I'm saying, Lord, you keep on getting better. Just like that song says, you keep on getting better. You keep on getting better. And I truly believe that. But I made up in my mind that this is going to be the greatest year of our lives, at least my life. And this is going to be the greatest year of the church's life, because I'm going to start revealing some things to you guys about what we're going to do and how we're going to move this thing forward. But if we really look at our lives, and we do say that God is very important in our lives. We do believe that God is very important in all these other things. But you know what else is important to a lot of people is money. So I say, what better way to start this year than money? I'm just being honest. This is what we're going to talk about this year, because God is not slack in dealing with his promises. Whatsoever a man sows, that's what he shall reap. That's what the word says. And so these are some things, and I'm going to talk some money principles as we go through this series, but I'm going to show you guys some stories, because I'm going to try to get the blessings of God on your guys' life. And if you want to get some of these blessings, money is a part of the blessings of God. And so I'm going to show you guys what has happened to me and the processes that we have been through in this lifetime. And so I'm calling this first one Shrewd Operator, because the Lord brought something back to my remembrance as I was getting ready to teach this. And be honest, I haven't really talked money a lot from the pulpit, but we have to talk money now. We just got to. And the Lord brought something to my remembrance. And I remember the first message I ever got a chance to preach. And the pastor, he asked me to do the tithes and offerings. So I said, okay. I said, all right. He said, man, just can you do tithes and offerings? I said, okay, I'll do it. And the Lord gave me some really good stuff. And so it went so well for this ministry. The guy said, man, Jesse, can you do tithes and offerings all the time? And I said, okay, I will. I said, I did that. So that almost became my job at the church, just talking money. And for some reason, just to be perfectly honest with you guys, it seemed like good things would always happen to me monetarily for some reason. I don't know why. It always would. Good things always happen to me. But with those good things happening to me, I was always able to be a blessing in return with that. And so the Lord said, teach on money. And as you guys have seen, I really want this church to be like the Book of Acts church. Yes. I did. That was my goal, and that was my vision for the ministry, to say, all right, man, we're going to be like the Book of Acts. Mm-hmm. We just put the box up there and people will freely give. And so it didn't go as well as I thought. Just going to be honest. It didn't go well as I thought. So now we had to start talking about these things so it's not to bring correction, but it's to show this is what happens when you do these things. This is what happens when you're faithful and you preach the whole loaf, as my dad says. But once you get that loaf, then we can start eating this loaf and it'd be really good. But we're coming out of Luke, the 16th chapter, and we're going to start in the first verse. And so here we go here. This is what he says. Jesus told his disciples, there was a rich man whose manager was accused of wasting his possessions. So he called him in and asked him, what is this I hear about you? Give an account of your management, because you cannot be manager any longer. So that's very interesting, because, if we just flip this around to our lives and we think about our management skills, how is our management skills with the things of God? Because he's coming in to tell this guy, you're not going to be manager anymore. It's over with. Pretty much it's like the Donald Trump show, whatever that was called. You're fired. That's what it was. It was The Apprentice, Bob. All right. He said, you're fired. And so that's pretty much what he's telling this guy, man, your management hasn't been correct. So now your services are no longer needed. And look what he says. The manager said to himself, what shall I do now? My master is taking away my job, and I'm not strong enough to dig, and I'm ashamed to beg. So at least this guy knew where he stood. He said, man, I'm weak. I can't go dig, and I'm too ashamed to go beg. So I have too much pride to go out here and start and beg. So I need to figure out something. At least this guy wasn't upset because he knew he was wrong. If this guy's saying this, he knows in a certain instance that he's wrong. He hasn't been doing what he was supposed to do. So he's going to try to fix it. He didn't want to go beat his boss up and talk about his boss did this and all these other things. He's saying, look, I'm going to go take care of this. I'm going to figure this thing out. And he says, okay, I know what I'll do. So that when I lose my job, people will welcome me into their houses. I'm going to figure this out. He say, so I'm going to try to keep my job, but if not, at least I'm going to have other people that will welcome me in when I do lose my job. So he's hedging his bet. He's hedging his bet. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, at least, man, this guy's thinking. Because, hey, man, I'm not strong enough, man. I can't go get in this field, man. That ain't going to work for me. I can't move no furniture. I don't want no calluses on my hands. So I can't do that. And I'm not going to beg because I go from being a manager to a beggar. How does that look? So, man, weren't you the manager down at Walmart? Now you're on the corner begging? He's like, man, what happened? Man, they fired me, man. I was hooking and crooking. They put me out. But they never say that, do they? They never say what they did. They just talk about what everybody else did. They say, oh, man, they fired me, man. That wasn't no good job no way, man. They tripping. But you never say, man, I was a terrible accountant. My management skills were terrible. They never tell you that, do they? It that's the same way, man. You leave a church, man. You talk about everything that the church did. You never say what you did. That's just human nature. That's what we do. We'll talk about everything that everybody else did, and we will not look in the mirror and talk about what we did. But at least he's trying. He's trying to keep his job. He doesn't want to get put out yet. He must have had a good 401k plan or something with this job. So I don't want to give this up. So this is what he's going to do. This is what he said. So he called in each one of his master's debtors. And he asked the first, how much do you owe my master? So I'm going to start straightening this out, man. I got to get something taken care of here. So look what he said. 900 gallons of olive oil, he replied. The manager told him, take the bill, sit down quickly, and make it 450. That's a fire sale. That's like when the collections calls you. It's usually pennies on the dollar, man. You can just start willing and dealing when you're on that phone with them. You can work some things out. Be saying, look, man, just look, 450, man, at least give my guy 450. So now, if you're really looking at it, the master would be happy because he's able to recoup something. But then on the other end, man, you gave this guy 50% off discount. Clearance sale. That's what it is, boy. We see 50% off in the store. Hey, we going. At least most of us are. We see if for some reason they put a red tag on it, they probably marked it up. But you see that red tag 50% off, you be like, oh man, it's a deal. This guy think he getting a deal. He's saying, man, we about to give him a 50% discount. But it's a deal. It is. If somebody knocks it down 50%, we in good shape, boy. Just imagine they knock your house down 50%. But this is what he said, man, quickly. So then the verse 7 here, it says, then the second, he said, how much do you owe? And he said, 1,000 bushels of wheat, he replied. He told him, take your bill and make it 800. So we're not going to knock his down as good as the others, but we are going to knock his down a little bit. So, all right. So, and then this is what he said. The master commended the dishonest manager. So the guy knows you're a crook, but he commends you because you're shrewd at what you do. And he says, because he had acted shrewdly. And this is what it says, and this is what we have to understand here, church. Pay attention to this last statement because it's just such a beautiful statement. He says, for the people of the world are more shrewd in dealing with their own kind than are the people of the light. So he is saying here that people of the world do better than you. Because we're children of the light, aren't we? Yes, we are. So he's saying that the world is better at dealing with their people than we are. That's not good. When you really think about it, that's not good. Because he's commending the dishonest person. But he's saying, man, they're good at doing these things. But the people of the light, we're not. So when we just really think about this and the shrewdness of it, let me just show you what shrewd is right here. Shrewd is marked by clever or discerning awareness. Yes. So he's saying that the world is more clever and aware of what they're doing than the church is. Or he's saying given to wily and artful ways. Just really think about that. Just really think about that. Are we really wily and artful when it comes to the things of God? Are we really clever enough and discerning enough and have that awareness when it comes to the things of God? He's saying the world is. And we are too, because for most of us, it's easier for us to operate in that arena than it is the church's arena. See, for some reason, the world, we can talk about money. When you go on a job interview, that's what they say. Go talk about money. Tell them how much you want. But when it comes to the church, oh man, no, we can't. No, don't talk about money. Man, the pastor bet I drive up in no nice car. Because when I give my tithe, I'm giving it to him or to her. That's not true. That's not true. But I always said this too. I said, man, it's amazing how that let's use Denzel. As we can use LeBron. It doesn't matter, whoever we want to use. They can make as much money as they want. But when it comes to the church, if I'm broke, you don't like me. And if I have money, you don't like me. I'm serious. Just think about that. Oh, man, look, man, that guy, no, Lord ain't using him, man. Look at him. He driving no hoopty beat up car. Okay, so I can't drive my hoopty. But then when I got a nice car, oh, man, look, man, he taking our money. Yes. Which one is it? Just which one do you want? Do you want a broke church or do you want church with money? You know, because it is a struggle of that. And rich, really, which one do you want? I did. I was under a pastor, man. And he said, man, God wants you rich. So, man, the pastor would say, man, we putting God on first class. That's what he used to say. We put him on first class. But when you really think about that, like for some reason, the church can't do that. But if you went first class, you like to go first class on your flight. But you can't do it in the church. So just think about these things. And he's saying, man, the world, they understand these things. But for some reason, the children of the light, they're not shrewd enough to understand these things. Or they're not clever enough to do this. Or they're not sharp enough to understand these things. But the world is. So when we really look at, and then look at this statement, and this is a statement that I want to look at also in verse 5 here, because this is a good statement that he said also. And if we really look at this, if we put this in the context of the vernacular, whatever we need to do here, he said in this thing, how much do you owe my master? So if we want to just break this down and make it applicable to our lives, so God can be the rich man. And then if you really want to, if not, the pastor can be the manager. Else, you guys can be the manager. If y'all want to be the manager, y'all can be the manager. And so when you really look at this, man, how much do you owe my master? Are you giving them your best? Are we really doing that? Because one thing, we require the best from God, but do we give him what he deserves? Just really think about that. Just really think about that. Because, man, I've never seen say, Lord, all right, Lord, when you bless me with this car, make sure it's a 1989 Buick LeSabre. That ain't the car anybody has in their head. But they was talking about that imagination the other day. That's not the car you imagining. Let's just be real about that. That's not the car you're imagining. I ain't never thinking that nobody wanted to buy a used car. You don't never have that car. You had that brand new shiny car on your head with a bow on it. That's what we see. That's what we see. But then if we're going to require that from God, how has your management skills been with the things that God has given us? See, let's just think about that. And so if you're going to get to where God needs you to be, you're going to have to understand these principles that God has given you. See, faithful with the little, faithful with much. And then it also said, dishonest with little, dishonest with much. It was a guy, man, he was saying this, and this story just popped in my head. He was like, this guy, man, he was faithful in the little. He was faithful, man. He gave his tithe. He blessed the Lord really good. So the Lord took him to a very interesting level in life. Took him to a very interesting level. And then so he goes to his pastor. He said, Pastor, he said, man, I'm having a hard time tithing on this large amount. He said, okay. He said, okay, I understand that. He said, can you pray with me? He said, okay. He said, I'll do that. He said, Lord, take him back down to about $50,000 a year so he can tithe. Isn't that the solution there? Because, man, if you're having a hard time with the little, you're going to have a hard time with the much. That's just the way human nature is. See, when God starts to increase you, it's not like, man, I'm gonna start giving you more, God. What you usually do is say, man, now I can afford to get these new Jordans. I can get this new car. Now, Lord, also, man, maybe I've been looking at that house also, so maybe I'll go grab this house while I'm at it. Because God is blessing me. He's blessing the work of my hands. So now I become more strudely in the things of the world, not strudely in the things of the light. That's what it is. See, when you work overtime, you never see giving something to somebody. When you work overtime, you say, man, once I work this overtime, now I can get these sneakers I like. Now I can take this trip I like. We never say, look, I'm going to work one more hour so I can be a blessing to somebody else. When have you ever thought like that? Never have. Nobody's ever done that. To say, man, when I work this 1 hour, man, I'm gonna go feed the homeless with this extra I got. Or I'm actually give something to somebody, or I'm gonna be a blessing to the ministry. We don't think like that. But we're gonna have to start thinking like that. We're gonna have to, because I don't think God put us here just to stay in a strip mall. This is our training ground. Yes. So if we don't get it here, when are we gonna get it? We just have to think about that. If we don't get it here, when are we gonna get it? And I'm telling you guys, this stuff works. Yes, it does. I remember, man, it was a pastor. Messed me over. Low down dude. Still was a blessing and given to him. I didn't want to give to him. I didn't want to give nothing to him. God made me give to him. I didn't want to give. And it hurt, because you know that this guy ain't doing the right thing. But it was to get out of me and the way I felt about it. See, so I'm listening to this. I'm not going to say nothing for you guys to do that I'm not doing. But it works. I was in this one other thing. I was leaving the shop yesterday. I was leaving. And so I went to the back, and I'm about to get ready to wrap up. And it was two things this guy did. He walks in, he said, hey, where's Jesse? And then I heard the barber, he said, hey, man, I don't know. He said, I think Jesse is about to leave. But I'm being honest, I was discerning enough then, and the Lord was like, go see what this guy wants. So I went and I saw what he wants. And I ain't seen this guy in a while. He said, I I said, man, your hair is long. He had a lot of hair. I ain't seen him in a while. He said, man, Jesse, is there any way I can get a haircut today? I was like, okay, cool. I'll cut your hair. And this is an older gentleman, so he has longer hair, but it's not a lot of hair. It's easy to cut his hair. It was quick. So afterwards, with the haircut, the guy hands me $50. He said, here you go, Jesse. I said, man, all right, thank you. And he said, man, Jesse, he said, God has been so faithful to me with my giving. I just want to be a blessing to others. And so I'm listening. I'm thinking like, man, I hit this guy at the end of the day. And for some reason, I'm about to speak on money. And the guy is telling me what he's doing. He said, Jesse, God has been so good. And he said, a guy asked him, he saw him writing out this check to church. I ain't going to tell you how much you write now, but it's a lot. Right now, this check to church. And he said, the guy said, man, why do you give all that money? And you do it, and he gives his tithes at the beginning of the month, and he don't pay no more. But he strokes a big check at the beginning of the month. He said, man, I just want to give God his first and get it out the way. And I said, man, okay. I said, that'll preach. But I'm not saying these things lightly, but these things are happening. Man, if I give you guys example out of example, what has happened to me this last year, God is good. God is more than good, and he's been better than good to me. And so I'm being honest as I can be about this. The ministry is going to be built with or without you. That it has to happen because man is not my source. God is the source. But if you want to get in on it, you might want to get in on it. Because now you can say, man, I help build God's kingdom. See, it's way different. See, I'm not storing up treasure here. I'm storing up treasure in heaven where moth and rust can't destroy them. And so now when I come before the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, he say, Jesse, you were faithful. Well done, my good and faithful servant. And see, that's what I'm looking for. See, these things, say, don't focus on these things, man. This is temporary what you see. Say the things are eternal, the things you do not see. So that's when my mind starts to tell me that, man, this is nothing compared to what God has in store for those who love him. So it's easy for me to do now because I started a little bit. I have never went to church and not gave something. I'm just being prolific. My wife would get mad at me sometimes. We out of town at a church and I'm giving money. She's like, how you get that much? And I'm like, because God's been good to me. Look, I'm being honest. I'm on vacation giving nice amounts of money. And I'm thinking like, man, I'm thinking to myself too, that could have been a meal, but I felt in my heart I should have did this. That's just the way I feel. And so I said, all right, but the Lord, it haven't been slack in it. I haven't been slack in it, man. And this last year, a guy comes to the barbershop. He said, hey, Jesse, man, I'm selling the car. I said, okay. I said, well, how much? He told me how much he's selling it for. I said, man, well, maybe I'll give you this for the car. He was getting deployed. Guy ends up selling me a car for $1,000. Pretty good car. Ain't no $1,000 car out there no more. You can't even find a $5,000 car. Just shows up and he say, hey, Jesse, I'm about to do this. And just you want this car? I said, yeah, and I got a car for my daughter. So these are the things that happen. I'm counting these things as my blessing for being faithful for the things of God. And it's going to happen to you guys this year. If you want it, you can have it. God's not a respecter of persons. He's not. No. I don't do this greater. It started very small. I didn't. I'm not saying I didn't believe in tithing. I did always tithe. But it is a faith walk. So don't. I said, man, as a man, so purpose and heart, so let him give. So that's the way I feel, because God will take you to where you can get to the place where I say, I trust you, God. It might hurt a little bit, but I trust you. And that's where I want you to get to, and not out of compulsion, because God loves a cheerful giver. See, I want this to get in your heart to say, man, I want to be a blessing. I want to sow this. But let me show you guys something, man. Do you know that only about 5% of churchgoers tithe? Wow. 5%. So how can you truly build on just 5%? It's tough. It's tough. But we're not saying, God, just give me 5%. Just flip it around. Always flip it around and say, God, just give me 5%. You know, well, 5% of church tithes. So that's all I'm saying. But if we just flip it around, like, man, all right, 5%. But just really think about that. See, we want the big blessings of God, and we serve a big God. See, just imagine if you do give a 10th, God blesses the 90. God blesses the 90. I told my wife the other day, I said, man, you shop at Walmart, I said, you ain't got no budget. Ain't got no budget. I'm like, but that's a testament of what God has done. She don't worry about no groceries. Man, go get it. But that's what God is doing. And he wants it to happen to each and every one of you guys. Because look, if you're blessed, the church is blessed. Yes. Just think about that. When you get it, the church is gonna have it. But look at this. This is the last statement, and look at this. It says, I tell you, Luke 16:9, I tell you, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself. What? I can use worldly wealth to gain friends? Oh, that's not right. To use worldly wealth to do this. That's not right, man. That's unholy, isn't it? That's what he's telling you. He says use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourself. And you know what that really is? If you really look at this, if we took a mega church, we'll pick one, Mount Zion, Long Hollow. I'm not saying they've all used worldly wealth to do it. Well, they use worldly wealth because money is dirty. So that's worldly wealth. That's the world system. That's the way that they say, everything. But they're gaining plenty of friends. You see the building they got? They're using worldly wealth to gain friends. Mount Zion does the same thing. They're using worldly wealth to gain friends. Because what does it say? Compel them to come to the house of the Lord. So you put up a playground, you put up all these other parks and these basketball courts, they're coming. So they're using worldly wealth to gain friends. So why don't we do the same thing to gain friends? And look what it says. Once you do this, so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. So once I use these tools that God has given me and blessed me with, now I can go to heaven later on. See, once you're done using this worldly wealth, because you can't take it with you. so that's why I use it now. See, once it's over with, now I can go into eternal dwellings. And now God tells you all these good things. Oh, man, now you got a crown, man, for your labors. Boy, you labored hard. Man, you did what you were supposed to do. You managed this account well. You did great things. So let's start to look at this as we go on this year. And I'm going to give you guys some more principles as we continue to talk about this. But God is going to bless this ministry. I'm telling you, it's going to happen but we have to be faithful in this because it says, look, where your treasure is, that's where your heart is also. Yes. See, he's showing you this, and see, God has to try you with money. Come on, man. He has to try you with money. See, that's why there's all these wars and all these other things happening. It's usually about the money. Yes. Man, I'm going to take their land. Now you got more land. See, you want more land. No, it's usually tied into the money somewhere. So now God is saying, look, man, be faithful. This is where I can test you at, because if you can't give me this, how can I trust you with true riches if you can't be faithful in the little? It can't happen. It hasn't happened yet. If people haven't been able to be faithful with the little, how can I trust you with true riches? You can't do it. It's not one day that the switch comes on. Be like, Lord, man, I hit the Powerball and now I'm good to go. You know, those people end up worse off. Crazy, isn't it? You get all that money, you end up worse off than you were before because you didn't learn the small principles. Say, God, all right, I'm going to test you. And Lord said the same thing. He said, prove me. Prove me. That's what God is saying. Prove me. And see if I won't open the windows. It's not going to be your mama to open the windows. It's not going to be your husband or your wife that opens the window. God's going to open the window and pour you out a blessing. What it said, you won't have room enough to receive it. Won't have room enough to receive it. And so just think about that this year. Because, man, I asked before, I said, man, be prayerful about your giving. And so now I'm asking again, be prayerful about your giving. If this is what God has told you to give, then keep giving what you're giving. If God has said that. That's what I'll just put it on the line like that. If God, that's what he's saying to do, keep doing that then. But if you think God has challenged you to go stretch a little more and to be a blessing to see his kingdom grow, then stretch. The most stretching I have is in the gym when I lift a little heavier and it hurts. But your muscles grow. They grow. See, but if I go in there, man, I just keep putting them 5-pound weights up. Now easy, buddy. And then you say, man, why am I even coming there no more? you be thinking like, man, I can miss this. I can miss this. I'm not getting nothing out of this. I can miss it. But when you truly start to get the things of God, man, you don't want to miss it. And I told y'all before, man, this year, I ain't leaving nothing on the table. Everything God got, I'm picking it up. And as I've been fasting, man, God's been revealing more. God's giving me a hunger even more for him. And I'll say this, and I'm going to wrap this up and I'm done. But I was reading my devotional. Somebody bought me a man's devotional, and you got a devotional every single day. And man, this is one of the greatest things I've seen. I was like, man, I got it for Christmas. I'm like, devotional, okay, whatever. But I'm reading it today, and it was right along the lines of what I was teaching and preaching for some reason. That's the way my God works. See, it's already, the plan is already written out. All you have to do is follow it. and he keeps revealing it more and more to me as I walk it out and say, Lord, you're going to do this thing for me. See, I'm not looking to the left or the right. I'm not worried about what's happening, but you told me to walk this path out. And it's working good. And I don't want to sound crazier, but and that's why I don't want to say nothing else, but man, I can sit up here all day and talk about what God did. You wouldn't believe some of the things that God is doing. And it's just because I've been faithful in the little, and he's knowing that he can trust me with more. So you guys got it. You do. You got it. But it's if you really want the blessing that God is really saying, hey, man, I got this for you right here. I got this for you. All you have to do is take it and receive it. But he's going to require something of us. I'm just saying, that's just the way it works, That's the same way your job works. You go to the job, you work, and they give you something. That's the things that God is saying, man, just look, give me something that I can touch. You have to give me something to touch, to multiply, to expand. So remember that this year as you kind of give and be a blessing to the ministry and to the things of God. But God bless you.